Good morning, everyone. It is such an honor to be back in this church. Ross and I love this church, and we're so happy to be here and see you in person. And our Zoom people, welcome to you as well. And I just want to tell you a little bit about Ross. He was lucky enough to grow up Unitarian-Universalist. He says he lucked out on getting the right parents. He was an LRY president. He and I both go up to Camp de Benneville quite often, and he is a physician. And that's probably all you need to know about him, because he's just an all-around wonderful guy who just happens to be in love with me. So welcome, everybody. And you'll have to bear with us because I have not done this before. Where do we go next, Pam? Ross, okay, yes, centering thoughts. We're going to do the centering thoughts. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to ring our singing bowls. Just to bring us to a contemplative, kind of holy frame of mind. I've always thought they sing beautifully together. So let me start with the centering thought. This one's from Rumi. It's translated by Dr. Reynold Nicholson. Rumi says, "Love is a boundless ocean in which the heavens are but a flake of foam. Know that all the wheeling heavens are turned by waves of love. Were it not for love, the world would be frozen." And the second brief thought is this from Robert Ellsberg, which is quoted in a book by David Kuntz, The Awakened Mind. He writes, Robert Ellsberg writes, "Being holy is who you were meant to be. Being your true self, expressing your humanity in the deepest sense." So now we'll go into our call to worship. And this is the affirmation that I've used, written by William Schultz and Kenneth Patton. And I'll start. "This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality." And we all say together, to
revere both the critical mind and the love of the generous heart.
To prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness. And to
witness to all
we must
that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
All life flows into a great
common life.
Only if we open our eyes to our
companions this morning. Now we're going to celebrate our Unitarian Universalist tradition by lighting our chalice. Again, these words were written by Albert Schweitzer and Albert Thielander, which I've adapted. And I'll start. "At times, our own light goes out, and yet it is rekindled by the spark from another person. Each of us has cause to thank with deepest gratitude those who have ignited our light, the flame within us." And let us say together, "Let us hallow this time together, rekindling the chalice lamp of our heritage and rekindling the light of each other."
Okay, now we get to hear from our wonderful Carole, and we're doing Spirit of Life, and we are doing it in both the English and the Spanish. And those of you who don't speak Spanish, just do it as best you can.
Please stand if you want to.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart
all the stirrings of
all compassion,
flow
flow in the wind, rise in the sea.
Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Root Holy Ghost, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente d'amor, ven hacia mí. Il corazón, cántele tu compasión. Sopla volar, subir la mar, hasta moldar la justicia de la vida. Dame, líbrame, fuente d'amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Now, if you'll all join me in unison affirmation, and those at home on Zoom, if you would like to unmute your mic so we can hear your lovely voices, please do so. Love is the spirit,
Spirit of this fellowship,
and
and
service
service is its
His
law.
law.
This is
This
our
is our great covenant,
to
to
dwell
dwell together in
Together in
peace,
peace.
to seek the
Seek
truth
the
in
truth
love,
in love.
and to
and
help.
to help
To help
one another.
one another.
We're going to proceed to our joys and sorrows, our cares and concerns. The way that I like to do this is to have a bowl, which I personally made many years ago when I was doing a lot of ceramics, filled with many of these stones that represent all the cares and concerns, all the joys in the heart and sorrows, all the stirrings of our heart that we've expressed here personally over the years in this wonderful fellowship. So when we drop the stones in for those cares and concerns that are expressed publicly, we'll drop a stone or two in, and we'll note that the water in the bowl will ripple out from that care and concern that represents our own thoughts out to those around us, represented by the edge of the bowl. And from the bowl, it ripples back in. The wave comes back in to affect us all. In this way, our cares and concerns, our joys and sorrows that are expressed here envelop and interconnect us all. So if anybody has, we'll go to the Zoom people first. And if there are anybody on Zoom who'd like to do a care, concern, or a joy and sorrow, now would be the time. I like to have a community response. It's in the form of a recitative, and we'll do it a cappella, as is our custom in Victorville. The words are, listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. And I also add that we've dropped several stones into the water to signify those cares and concerns, those joys and sorrows which are too deep or too personal to be shared publicly at this time. We know that they are equally and maybe more important than the ones that we've expressed, and we honor those. So let's sing together. Start here. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Once more. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. We're going to go on, and as is again our custom in Victorville, because we frequently have new people who don't know what our Unitarian Universalist faith is about. And we incorporate the reading of both the sources and the principles in every service that we do. I'll read the sources for our faith, and then we'll read together the 7 principles, and we'll mention the 8th principle as well. The sources of our faith. The living tradition that we share draws from many sources, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, which is affirmed in all cultures and which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic women and men which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. And spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and which instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Grateful for the religious pluralism which enriches and ennobles our faith, we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our vision. As free congregations, we enter into this covenant, promising to one another our mutual trust and support. And let's say the 7 principles together. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian-Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. I'm going to say some words about our proposed 8th principle, which is going to be coming up for discussion in this congregation. The justification for our proposed 8th principle asserts that anti-racism and anti-oppression thought and actions must be central to our congregational life and our community building. It reads, "We covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse and multicultural beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions." Friends, many UU churches have endorsed this proposed principle and expressly note that both the indigenous people's land upon which our churches are built and their inferior, quote unquote, cultures and religions were stolen from them twice. Here in California, first by the Spaniards and then again by the Americans. They feel that acknowledging the fierce depth of these crimes and their persistent foundational effort echoes into our present political order is a necessary first step towards accountably dismantling racism and oppressions and establishing the multicultural, beloved community to which we aspire. To acknowledge this, there are two indigenous peoples who lived here in the Laguna Beach area, which was their border, actually. The Gabrieleños, also known as the Tongva, lived from the Topanga Canyon in the north to Laguna Beach and inland to the San Bernardino Mountains. And also Luiseños, or Ashamen, or Payo Kwamichum, which means the people of the West, lived from South Los Angeles County to northern San Diego County along the coast and about 30 miles inland. They both spoke different dialects of the same Ute Aztecan language family. This morning, let us pause a moment to acknowledge both the crimes committed against them and our enormous debt to them. And also, to conclude, I've been asked to announce that if anyone is interested in working with implementing the eighth principle here in Laguna Beach, please contact Board President Oakley Frost. We're going to go to our offering, and we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll have a response after the offering is taken. Thank you. I just want to say again, what a pleasure it is to hear Carole play in person. It's just gorgeous. The response to our message is again, the number 402, very short. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. Let's sing that together twice. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give.
We share, and from this we live.
Okay, now we're going to do the centering thought. I will read the regular print, and if you'll join me, we'll all read the bold print. Love is what makes people happy. Love is what justifies our being. I was given birth by the mother who is called love. To that
To
mother,
that mother,
I
I
bestow
bestow
100
a
blessings,
hundred blessings,
100
100
cheers.
cheers.
Now, in case you forget who Ross is, he's wearing his name tag, which they make every year when he goes up to the men's retreat at Camp de Benneville.
Well, I guess that's appropriate because, thank you, Annie. The title of the sermon is "In Case We Forget Who We Are." My friends, as many of you know, I finish my sermons with the word namaste, meaning that the wholeness and the holiness that I see in you when my eyes are opened, and when I am observant of the ties that bind us all together, naturally bring out the holiness, the wholeness in me. This is a comforting thought and somehow fitting for the sermon's end, regardless of the sermon's subject, as it seems to me to mark the fulfillment of our first principle, even if that may be fleeting or imperfect. Because truly respecting and truly seeing and feeling the inherent worth and dignity of others is my personal worship goal, as well as the broad goal of our Unitarian-Universalist faith. And this is good, as well as aspirational. And I want to emphasize that several times this morning, aspirational, because as we all know, we are not perfect in any of our endeavors. We will inevitably fail at times in our efforts to be truly awake in the presence of others. We will inevitably fail at times to respect or embody our first principle, maybe even fail miserably. It happens. Because it is too often true, isn't it, that despite our best intentions, we may well exhibit the devilish version of our first principle, the polar opposite version of our namaste. And maybe it sounds like this: damn you, the snarkiness in you brings out the snarkiness in me. Or maybe it ends up more like the insults you throw at me, real or perceived, make me hurl them back at you. And as with any emotional reaction, whatever we share with another being, verbally or non-verbally, ends up affecting the other. And they, in turn, reflect that emotional energy back to us, as it does when we drop our stones in the water, reflects back from the edges of the bowl. My friends, this is the secret punch of the namaste phrase. Whatever it is that we put out, it will surely find its way back to us. And as we all have experienced, that can be a gut punch, especially if we are unaware of a negativity in our own emotions that gets picked up in our voice, and then which colors that which we have said or done, making it feel off-putting or insulting when we didn't really mean or want to communicate any of that. These sorts of interactions can make me fearful, reticent to share myself with others, or to make me fret about my capacity as a leader. Realizing I have unintentionally done this can even make me question myself, my own self-worth. How can I be a good Unitarian Universalist when I can't even get it with our first principle? Now, the answer is, of course, that every one of our principles is aspirational, a goal to which we will always march, but which we will never 100% attain. And we must accept the fact that we will never be 100% perfect, and that this sad state of affairs is nobody's fault. But making the good faith effort is what makes us good UUs, along with taking responsibility for our failures and shortcomings. It is not in achieving an impossible goal. In our UU faith, we each bear the responsibility for continuing our own personal and perpetual spiritual growth, and crucially, as our fifth principle states, also in our congregations, which I feel actually means helping each other to grow spiritually. We have such a Sisyphean faith. We know that we must always try to improve ourselves, but alas, we know we can never quite get that huge boulder up to the summit. We know that it, like us, will always fall down. And this is our covenant, a large part of who we are, that we try nonetheless. Now, last month, Annie and I had the privilege of spending 2 days up at our camp to Bentonville Pines, enjoying the adult camp. This was a great pleasure for us, for among the prime workshop and Sunday worship leaders was Reverend Tom Owentoll and his wife, Carolyn. Among the keeper insights I learned from him was what we should expect relationally from ourselves, as well as from our friends, our loved ones, our family, and fellow church members. He said, remember, we're not perfect. So how do we want to spend the time we yet have before we go, he asked, referencing our mortality. Reverend Tom wants that time to be spent in fulfilling relationships and not alone. We just can't get along with everybody, after all, nor can we thrive in too difficult or too toxic of relationships in which we spend too much of our precious and waning in our older age strength and psychic energy. So how do we judge our relationships and the quality, time, and energy that we want to spend in them? Reverend Tom did have a general guideline which he shared, but first I'll go into a couple of my own observations. My friends, I'll start with a few words about ice cream. Now, I admit I love ice cream. I always have, like my father, who taught me, I'm afraid. My favorites are the fruit flavors and the rarely seen root beer swirl from Baskin Robbins. Any other cognates, any here? Yeah. But another friend years ago gave me another bit of wisdom, knowing of my love of ice cream. He said, remember, it doesn't take much crap. And in parentheses, he really meant that to mean actual excrement, to make a whole half gallon taste horrible. And he's right. You can't mix crap with ice cream. Even the smallest amount will foul the whole mess. And this would be a violation and act so contrary that should it be done to a friend's ice cream, even as a joke, it would be so beyond the normal limits of behavior, so toxic, that the friendship would be unlikely to be able to continue. The point of this admittedly extreme story is to illustrate an aspect of friendship, especially for those of us who are older and who are entering the later phases of our lives. I strongly feel we should not waste our limited mental and physical energies on unrewarding, toxic relationships. Even those within our own families, our remaining time and personal resources are just too precious to waste. As with ice cream, truly toxic ingredients will spoil the whole relationship, and we should not partake of it, even if we have truly loved that family member or been close to them or a friend or friends with them in a kinder past. I'd also like to say a few words on the lack of friendships, especially here in life's late stages, and some words on aloneness. Let me start by saying that's my personal experience that very, very few of us are successful hermits. Human beings are social creatures. I find that being around others of like mind and spirit is comforting and fun and engaging, yet challenging. But they deepen my understandings of myself and the world. In short, my friends, you lift my spirit and make my life better in many ways. And this was the experience both Annie and I had up at our camp last month. And that is what I have come to expect whenever I go there. There are, however, many people whose capacity for social pleasures are absent or warped. And for those of you who don't know, as a physician, I've spent the last 20 years doing prison medicine as a prison physician in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. But these whose social capacities are absent or warped include the autistic, the chronically depressed, chronic schizophrenics, the developmentally disabled, and the sociopaths, who comprise about 1% of our population and who cannot see any benefit to social interaction except how it may benefit themselves personally. And also, people who have suffered trauma or abuse are likely to be difficult friends, as we may innocently trigger PTSD-like memories and reactions in our talks with them. However, while any of these folks may be able to sustain a good relationship with a few particular people, they also may have problems with and in groups. And this includes churches where they may have been previously traumatized. And sadly, these problems tend to worsen with age, especially with dementia and strokes. When these come, they cause language and movement disorders, which then greatly accelerate their isolation and lead to loneliness and depression. Social skills and the capacity for friendship wither under the strain of mounting physical and mental debilitation. I plead that we must stay connected, interactive to the greatest extent possible as we age. If we don't use these capacities, we will lose them. And it is here where church friends who can visit the elderly and homebound can really help our aged remain as active and vital as is possible. Becoming aware of the hunger for care and connection is the key. Becoming aware. And satisfying it brings the circle of our interconnectedness towards closure and gives the dependent, isolated ones the great comfort of loving contact, and equally gives to their visitors a sense of satisfaction by selflessly giving a priceless gift to others. The ache of human loneliness and longing can guide us if we are attuned to its sorrows. This is also a type of love. It can be who we can be and who we are. But let's return to Reverend Tom Owen-Toole. I mentioned that he has his guideline about friendship and the right actions that sustain it between us imperfect people. Absent severe situations or conditions on either side of the friendship spectrum, and given our human need to have our friendship reciprocated meaningfully back to us, where's the balance? And is it different for the intimate friends of one's extended family or one's life partner and children? And in our congregational family, where we consciously strive to create, deepen, and keep our beloved community of imperfect people? Reverend Tom had a ready answer as he asked these questions during the outdoor Sunday worship service up at camp. With a big, almost beatific smile on his face, he was clear, and this is a direct quote. At this stage in my life, over 80 years old now, I think that if those around me, my friends, family, and my church members, can respond well to me about 75% of the time, I think that's pretty good for me. I'm satisfied. Because what happens if I insist or push for more? People are not perfect, and I'll just get myself mad and frustrated and drive those others crazy too, and drive them away if I would insist they live nearer to perfection just for me. I might get a little more from my life partner, Carolyn, maybe 80% because she knows and loves me so well. But that's a wonderful gift that she gives me that I don't demand or deserve. He continued, and you know what? I sometimes just wish that the church people would also be satisfied with doing things right about 75% of the time. We church folk try hard, but we're not perfect either, and we can do some stupid things too. And I've seen people just leave the church because of it. It's sad to break that covenant between us. The church can't be perfect either. My friends, I think Reverend Tom, my friend, has it about right. Here we're not perfect, but we try to do pretty well at least 75% of the time. Here we covenant with each other to affirm and promote worthy principles, which are themselves not perfect, and which we know will change and evolve to better fit the world which will exist in 10 to 15 years, so that we can better serve our future UU folks and our congregations. And to my knowledge, we're the only denomination whose founding principles are mandated to be formally reviewed and rewritten if needed, at least every 15 years, as we see with our proposed 8th principle, which is in process. We know in our hearts that truth is not revealed once in antiquity and then sealed forever. We know, rather, that truth constantly evolves and that it is recreated and re-expressed through the needs and the life experiences of every human generation. We know, as one of my personal heroes, the Jefferson Airplane, put it in their seminal 1969 album, After Bathing at Baxter's. They sang that life is change, how it differs from the rocks. And I've kept that with me all these years. So here we also covenant with each other to stick with and support each other, to stick with our principles as we have them today, and to follow them towards the justice, equity, and compassion to which they exhort us. This wide and loud call, which we hear in our hearts, leads us spiritually to work, to confront, and protest the myriad of injustices, social and economic, in which we in our precious country, and indeed our world at large, are enmeshed. We believe in democracy, and we greatly fear the race toward totalitarianism, which the world seems to be running. We treasure freedom for all, for we know that if all people are not free, then none of us are fully free. This is our compassion for all. This is also who we are. My friends, our church's place in all of this is essential to us and for us, even if it's not perfect. Here we find friendship, mutual support, and solace among like-minded people. Here we value learning and science, as well as the mysterious depths of our spiritual and ethical lives and learning. We know, as Reverend Tom says, that what we each know individually about God or its lack is just a tiny fragment of an impossibly large and unknowable whole. So here we have room to honor and emulate, if we so choose, any spiritual practice that we feel is meaning to us and deepens us. We know we do not have to think alike or believe alike to love alike. And we put our time and money into support for the causes and charities which we value. And lastly, we covenant to support each other in our mutual personal journeys towards spiritual growth. Even if we do so lovingly in our beloved community, only about 75% of the time, which is really pretty good. I want to conclude with a poem by Dr. Reverend Michael Tino, minister of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, which is found in a little anthology of UU poetry. That was edited by our UU minister and moderator, Reverend Meg Riley. It's this little book. Here's Reverend Tino's poem. You are essential. Your life is essential. Your body is essential. Your presence here in community is essential. Here we mourn the dead. Here we rage at injustice. Here we learn and grow, stretch and challenge ourselves. Here we plan and build the beloved community. Here we remember what is greater than ourselves. Here we celebrate joyous milestones and mark the season's turning. Our work here is essential because we are essential. Not just those of us who are here, but all our siblings of every faith, of every color and identity. All of us are essential. Come, let us worship, connected, whole, and essential. My friends, to conclude, all of this too is who we are. We are lovers of life, and we are faithful to our community, hopefully about 75% of the time. And now, as promised, Namaste, the holiness that shines from you illuminates the holiness within me. And blessed be each and every one of us here this morning, all essential and all equally valued.
I just found out today that this is Carole's, one of her favorite songs, and it happens to be my favorite song, Unitarian song. So everybody, let's do How Could Anyone Ever Tell You? How could anyone ever tell you that you're anything less than beautiful? How can anyone ever tell you you are less than whole?
How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Repeat that line. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
I'm going to close with a unison reading. It's number 701 in our gray hymnals, but it's a lovely piece of writing. Let's say it together. We receive
Fragments of holiness,
glimpses of
of
eternity,
eternity,
brief
brief moments of insight.
Let us
Let
gather
us gather them up for
precious
the precious
gifts
gifts that they are,
and renewed
and renewed by their grace,
move boldly
move boldly into the unknown movement.
And we have one more brief song, which I learned in the early 1960s in the church in which I grew up in Ventura, the UU church there. And it's the doxology from all who dwell below the skies. Let songs of hope and love arise. Let's sing it together, Carole.
From all that hope and
Well,
love,
beyond the sky,
let songs of earth and faith arise. Let peace and goodwill arrive through every land by any time.
This in response with sacred words from many different cultural faiths and religions. So let's say together, Amen, Asha, Shalom, Aloha, Sitzrakan, Salam, Namaste, and blessed be. And let's stand as we're able to sing Peace on Earth, as is the habit of this congregation.
With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment, live each moment in peace, eternally. Let there be peace on earth. Let it begin with me. Namaste.
Blessed be. Thank you all.